Assalamu alaikum beautiful people. Today I'm going to teach you life and works of America's great poet Robert Frost. Repeat it, Robert Frost. And his beautiful poem After Apple Picking. Apple picking is here. It is for class 12th and this poem is in their syllabus. After Apple Picking by Robert Frost. Components of today's lecture are life and works of Robert Frost, title of the poem, text of the poem, structure of the poem, paraphrase of the poem, themes, literary devices, glossary, and textual questions. First of all, we would like to know about this great poet of America, Robert Frost. His complete name, full name was Robert Lee Frost, and he was born 1874, died in 1963. I think around 60, 72 years before us. American poet and playwright. He was not just poet. He was not just writing poetry. He was playwright also, writing dramas also. He lived a hard life, couldn't publish any book till he was 40 years of age. It happens with some people. Some people they get fame early in their lives, but some are unlucky like me. They don't get fame until they are 40, 50. Some get after death, but this man gets fame after 40 years of his age when he is finally successful in publishing his book, and that too not in America, in England. And they say with Pagambar, you understand it. So this man, he was not loved and respected and revered first in America. First he was loved by the people of England, by other country, by the people of other country. And when he got fame, then Americans, they loved him too. His father's name is William Frost. William Frost was also doing many jobs. He was a journalist, a teacher, and he did other jobs also. And he died in 1885. Robert Frost's mother, she died of cancer in 1900. Frost graduated in 1892. So here we have this man. After graduation, what he does, married his girlfriend who was a big fan of his poetry. So in European countries, they have this girlfriend boyfriend concept there. Now it is spreading all across the world. But his wife was a big fan of his poetry. She loved his poetry. In other words, we can say Robert Frost married this woman only because she loved his poetry. And this couple, when they got married, they had 6 kids. A few of them died. Robert Frost himself, he worked as a teacher from 1906 to 11, and then he went to England with his family. He toured to England, traveled to England, and here he was successful in publishing his first book that was A Boy's Will, and he spent 2-3 years in England. That is from 1912 to 1915. And when he came back from England, he worked as a farmer for a year or so. Finally, the fortune smiled at him. He became professor of English language at Amherst College in America, and he served as a professor of English language from 1916 to 1938. My Butterfly is his first poem. My Butterfly, what a lovely name. His mom, his daughter, his wife, and he himself suffered from depression. That is what I tell my students. Do not take anything seriously. Good days will come, inshallah, if you are in bad days. And if you are already in good days, then do not think that these good days will last forever. Night, day comes, joys, sorrows come. And life is like that. You don't have to take anything seriously. Let things happen to you. Let things come. If they are good, then enjoy. If they are bad, then have patience. No need to get depressed. But this depression was, you can say, a family disease in Robert Frost's family. Wife died of heart failure in 1938. Oh, very sad. This man's wife dies. His biggest fan of his poetry dies. Books, A Boy's Will, published in 1913, North of Boston. North of Boston is important book because our poem that we are going to learn today, that is after apple picking, is from this book, North of Boston. Next, we have Mountain Interval, New Hampshire, West Running Brook, a further range, a witness tree in the clearing, a Mask of Reason. Mask of Reason is not a poetry book. All the others are poetry books, but this one is a play, is a drama. See, bad luck. He was 31 times nominated for Nobel Prize. He didn't get even once, but he was nominated for 31 times. This man, in other words, you can say he's suspense. He was tantalized, and not to hell with such people who tantalize such good poets like Robert Frost. Won 4 Pulitzer Prizes for poetry. This prize is given in America, and 1 Congressional Gold Medal. This gold medal is given one of the, you can say, political parties of America. Poet laureate of Vermont. Well, Americans, they don't have a poet laureate, but this man, he was given this post, or rather is a title, honorary title for this man, poet laureate of Vermont. Quotes, I love his quotes. See how he defines his life. He says, I can define life in 3 words. It goes on. Life goes on. And we are here before us. Other people were here. After us, other people will be here. This goes on. This is life. That is how he defines his life. A poem begins in delight and ends in wisdom. Yeah, this is important. All his poems, they begin in delight, and as if when his poems start, they seem, the tone seems very light. It seems that the poem is not going to be very philosophical. The poem does not have perhaps a great lesson for us, a great moral for us. But by the time we end his poems, we conclude reading his poems, we learn some great truth, some great wisdom. Same is the case with our poem After Apple Picking. So keep watching. And he had certain issues with God. And some people who suffer most, they have issues with God. You can say God, you can say that a kind of lover's quarrel with God. This man has made this statement: forgive, O Lord, my little jokes on thee, and I will forgive thy great big one on me. So for him, life is a big joke. He says, oh God, you played a big joke on me by giving me life. And now sometimes through my poetry, through my quotes, I'm also sometimes saying certain some hurtful things to you. So you forgive me, I will forgive you. Again, you can say there is fun in it. He was neither a Christian properly nor an atheist. He was a skeptic. Skeptic means sometimes you believe in something and sometimes you don't believe. Understand? For example, you have to offer prayers. You don't offer prayer because you think there is no God. But when earthquake shakes your home, you invoke God. You pray God. Oh God, save me, save me. So that is how these spectacles look like. Sometimes they do believe, sometimes they don't believe. Robert Frost belonged to the same category. And his famous poem is The Road Not Taken. The Road Not Taken is the world famous poem and his best poem. I read it again and again because this road not taken. All of us are given choices in our life. Maybe after you people pass 10th, you have choices to study medical, non-medical, arts, commerce, and sometimes you are given choices to join this college, that college. You are given choices to make friendship with this person, that person, and finally we have to take some decision. Understand? And then after some time, maybe after a year, after 5 years, after 10 years, some of us regret over our decisions, that why we took that particular decision at that time. So that road not taken, understand, is the story of everybody. Understand? Everybody, every human being, story of every human, the road not taken. That is why I like this poem. Next is Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening. This poem was a favorite poem of Jawaharlal Nehru, the first Prime Minister of India. And they say when that guy died, they found a slip on his desk, and there were written a few lines from this poem. Then you have Mending Wall, then you have Birches. So this was the life of Robert Frost. Title of the poem, After Apple Picking. Words are very simple. After apple picking. After is a preposition. Apple picking is here a compound noun. Literal meaning of apple picking is apple picking means plucking apples or harvesting apples. It is for small children if they want to know the meaning of title. And this is the title refers to the condition of the narrator after he finished the task of picking apples of a particular tree. He records his experience of picking apples. In the poem, he says that apple picking was very painful and hectic. That is what he means by literally means by the title apple picking. But metaphorical meaning, I love philosophy. I'm not a big philosopher, but I love philosophy, discussing philosophy, reading philosophy. So philosophically speaking or metaphorically speaking, this apple picking doesn't mean apple picking I say actually. It means something else. What it means, come on, let us learn here. Apples may here refer to the poems or duties in the life of the narrator. So he describes in the poem his condition or state after he fulfilled the duties in his life or after he retired from composing poetry. After picking the whatever apples in his life, he feels disappointed and pessimistic like all other thoughtful human beings nearing their deaths. He is worried about his next life. He is not sure what lies in store for him. He has fulfilled his job, whatever it was, and now he thinks of his future, whether his future is easy or hard, or whether there is any future at all. He represents here all those people who are skeptical about life hereafter or feel mostly regretful over the way they have led their lives. He doesn't seem very happy about the gift of life and is reluctantly waiting for his death. So that is what this title means metaphorically. So apples may here mean his poems after apple picking, after he was done with writing all his poems, or maybe apples here mean his duties, his dreams, his desires in life. And we all have dreams, desires, and tasks and jobs and obligations which we have to fulfill, and we have to be very careful. We have to you can say exert ourselves to make our dreams come true. That is what have after apple picking, after I pick all apples in my life or the most apples in my life. In other words, after I fulfilled most of the dreams of my life. So that is what he means by apple picking title. Hope the title is clear to you. Text of the poem. Today I would like to you can say explain this poem, beautiful poem, line by line. So how it starts: my long two-pointed ladder is sticking through a tree toward heaven still, and there is a barrel that I didn't fill beside it, and there may be 2 or 3 apples I didn't pick upon some bough. So what our poet here tells us here, the poem, it starts suddenly. Understand, the poem directly addresses the poet directly addresses the readers. Hello readers, look here, my long two-pointed ladder is sticking through a tree toward the heaven city. Say, look at the ladder over there. My ladder is settled over there near the tree, and it is facing the heaven. Ladder is facing down, sticking through means this, the upper portion of the ladder is thrusted through the branches of the tree, and it is facing the heaven. Hello readers, look at my ladder. Ladder is over there, it is facing the heaven. And you can see one more thing over there, a barrel, a large container, and that container is empty. I didn't fill, means I didn't fill with apples. And he says, and you can also inspect the tree, you can also observe the tree, and you will find 2 or 3 apples on some bough, on some branch. So these 3 things: ladder is there, barrel is there, and certain unplucked apples are there on some tree. Understand? So convincing us, reassuring readers that he was really doing some job. He was really picking apples, harvesting apples. Next he tells us here, but I am, and here he says, but I am done with apple picking now. Essence of winter sleep is on the night. The scent of apples. I am drowsing off. 3 more lines. But he says, I am done with apple picking now. Maybe if you take this line literally, I am done with something, means I have finished Understand, now it is evening time, I cannot continue my work, I can no longer pluck down apples. So literal meaning. Or sometimes I'm done with it, and when you get angry and you say I'm done with it, I'm finished it, I have finished it, I'm done with it. So when you see this thing, I'm done with it, means I'm fed up with apple picking. Understand, I don't want to pick more apples. I'm not interested in picking more apples. I don't want more apples. So that is what I'm done with it. To hell with the apples, I'm not going to pick more apples. And he says essence of winter sleep is on the night. Essence of winter sleep. Essence of winter sleep here is peel of winter sleep. Winter sleep, long sleep, because almost all people who enjoy winters, they can agree with me that we enjoy long, sound sleep, slumber rather, during winters, because in winters night is so longer and days are very shorter. That is what he says. I feel this winter sleep is on the night. If winter sleep is on the night, means there is peel of winter sleep, long sleep now. I feel sleepy. The scent of apples I am drowsing off. And he here tells us that there is a perfume of apples, fragrance of apples around, but I am feeling sleepy. But this line say, there the scent of apples I'm feeling, I am drowsing. So the narrator here seems stuck between sleep and apples. Understand? That is what Ghalib somewhere says. Kaaba mere piche, Kalisa mere aage. Understand? So here our narrator, he's pulled by apples also here, but at the same time he's pulled by sleep also. He is somewhere between the two. He wants to sleep, he is sleepy, but at the same time scent of apples is there, beauty of apples is there. Apples is there. Part of his brain tells him go back and pluck down apples. He says I'm somewhere stuck between these two beautiful things, sleep and beauty of apples. But he says I can't rub the strangeness from my sight I got from looking through a pane of glass I skimmed this morning from the drinking trough and held against the world of hoary grass, and it melted. I let it fall and break. These 3-4 lines actually, they have nothing to do with earlier lines. Now here the narrator changes the topic and he flashes backward. He tells us something he has done early in the morning. He says early in the morning when he woke up from sleep, what he did, he picked up a piece of glass, a pane of glass, he picked up a piece of ice from some drinking trough, from some drinking tub. It happens in winters when you wake up early in the morning here, and also winters, what you see, the water outside in buckets and troughs and tubs, it has become frozen, and sometimes certain children, they pick those you can say pieces of ices and they eat it, and that is what the narrator says here. In the morning he has also woken up and picked a piece of ice from a drinking trough, and then he looked at things around him and using it as a glass, using it as a specs, and he looked at the things through that piece of ice, and he says everything looked strange to me, and he says that strangeness lies still in my eyes. I can't rub it, I can't remove it. That strangeness of things is still in my eyes. I got from looking through a pane of glass I came at this morning from the drinking trough and held against the world of hoary grass. Hoary grass, because if that piece of ice is of white color or of watercolor, then everything around you will look of watercolor, white color. That he says the grass was hoary. Maybe he tells us about that what we call that early in the morning when we wake up in winters, we find the grass covered with that frozen dew, what we call frost. Understand, it is called frost. He says the grass was frosty, the grass was frosty, and he says that I looked at frosty grass through that piece of ice. It is literal meaning. Later I'm going to tell you the real meaning of this thing. It melted and I let it, and when the temperature increases in the morning, the ice piece you are holding in your hands, it melts and you have no choice but let it fall. But he tells, but I was well upon my way to sleep before it fell, and I could tell what form my dreaming was about to take. Now he says, he again jumps forward, comes to the earlier topic. Now see, I feel sleepy, I'm going to sleep. And he says, I can tell you that I will see all that I did all day long, all that I did during the day. I feel I can see all that in my dreams now. Now he's going to sleep, and when he will fall asleep, he says, I will dream about the things which I have been doing all day long. Magnified apples appear and disappear. So I will say big apples, they will appear and disappear in my dreams. Stem and blossom, and stem end means top side of apple, blossom end means bottom side of apple. So I can see those apples from every side, and every fleck of russet showing clear, every mark, red marks on those apples, I can see even that in my dreams. Mind step arch not only keeps the egg means pain, it keeps the pressure of a ladder round. Again he tells us about how this narrator was standing on the rungs, on the steps of the ladder, and he says, now I feel pain. Now it's natural, obviously, if you stand on a step of a ladder for 2-3 hours, for half a day, for a full day, obviously you will feel pain. That is what he tells us. I feel the ladder sway as the boughs bend, and I keep hearing from the cellar bin the rumbling sound. Again he tells us here that this, when you are plucking down apples, you need a ladder, and you have to place the ladder on the soft branches of the tree. And when soft branches of the tree bend, you are on the ladder, and your ladder also bends, it sways, it is dangerous, sometimes you can fall and die. That is what the narrator here wants us to understand, that this apple picking, it is not that much easy. It is dangerous, sometimes it can take your life, you can fall off the ladder and die. It is very tough. And he says, meanwhile, this rumbling sound, this rolling sound of apples was disturbing me. So here you have to pluck down apples, you are on the ladder, and there you are falling, you are hearing the rumbling sound, so disturbance. That is what he says. It's a very tough job to pluck down apples. Of load on load of apples coming in. And that is what he says, load of apples. So already there's a heap of apples, and you go, or you have some servant over there, some worker over there, he goes with another load of apples and puts on the heap of apples. So when you put more apples on a heap of apples, so apples tumble down, roll down, they make sound, and that is what what the narrator is referring to. But I have had too much of apple picking. Again, he says, no more apple picking. I have had too much of it. I'm overtired. I'm exhausted of the great harvest of myself desired. So here, greed. So once upon a time, he was very greedy. He desired a great harvest, lots of apples. Now, when he had lots of apples, he doesn't have energy, he doesn't have strength, courage to pluck them all. So in other words, he is no bored, he is no bored with harvesting apples. He is suffering from boredom or monotony. There were 10,000 fruit to touch, cherish in hand, live down, and all that falls. 10,000 lots of fruit. There were lots of apples on the tree, and I had to pluck them carefully and with love and with care, because for all that struck the earth, no matter if not bruised or spiked with stubble, went surely to the cider apple heap. He says, if by chance any apple falls from my hands, slips through my hands, and that apple touches the ground, it loses its value. Then it is not fit for packing, it is fit for cider apple heap, it is fit for juice factory. So that is what he says. Anything that touches the earth, understand, from apples, if any apple touches the earth, it loses its value. But he says, as of no worth. Sometimes it is almost worthless, it becomes almost worthless. One can see what will trouble this sleep of mine, whatever sleep it is, were he not gone. But he says, now the question here is the burning question, the disturbing question here is that how my sleep will be. How will I sleep now? Were he not gone, the woodchuck could see whether it is like his long sleep as they describe it is coming on, or just some human sleep. Now, woodchuck is you can say a hibernating animal. Woodchuck hibernates, so he has experience of long sleep. Now the writer here tells us, the narrator here tells us that I would consult Woodchuck. He would have guided me. He would have enlightened me on this sleep, because he is expert. He is used to hibernation. He would have told me that what this long sleep is actually like. But he says, I'm not lucky, because this woodchuck is already, he has already gone to sleep. He's already hibernating. Understand? So now I don't know. I'm not sure that what kind of sleep will I have. So here this poem ends on a note of skepticism. That is what Robert Frost stands for. He was a skeptic. This was literal meaning. Metaphoric meaning here is, or philosophical meaning here is, that this apple picking is not really apple picking. Apples are not really apples. Apples may mean here something else. Maybe his duties, his dreams of the narrator, duties of the narrator, or maybe his poems. If you compare apple picking to his profession of writing poetry, then apples here mean poems. So he says, I have had enough of apple picking, means I have written many poems. And here he tells us that I left certain these apples on some bough, on some branch unplucked. So he here told that there were more topics in my mind on which I would have written poems, but now I gave up that idea. So it can mean also that. And apples may also mean duties and dreams in his life. So we all human beings, we have dreams in our lives, and we chase those dreams, and some of those dreams come true, some of those dreams don't come true. Understand? And we have to be very careful in fulfilling those dreams, in materializing those dreams. And it is that dream chasing or fulfilling dreams is exactly like plucking down apples. Understand? And if you show small negligence, small carelessness while chasing a dream, that dream may break, that dream may not come true. That is what happens here. If you show negligence or carelessness while plucking down an apple, it may fall down, it may become worthless. That is what he says. And one more thing is here, that I feel sleepy, sleepy, sleepy. This word sleep is many times, I think 4 5 that 6 times repeated. So here he if you compare this day of apple picking with the full life of the narrator. Understand? And then he is going to sleep, means he is waiting for night. So here sleep means death. He is waiting for death. He is waiting for his death. So death is a long sleep. Now that is what he says. I am overtired now, means I am now very old. I have reached my old age. Now I am waiting for death. But he is not sure about death. Understand? Whether this death will bring peace to his life or more pain to him. And we have several you can say proofs here, evidences here, that in this poem sleep means death. That is what he here tells us. He here tells us that I am drowsing off, and again here, but I am on my way. I was well upon my way to sleep. Upon my way means he is now old, he is now going to die, but he is not sure about the life after death. But he has said also, what form my dreaming was about to take, magnified apples appear, disappear, stamen. He says, all that I have done in my life, I'm going to see perhaps all that in the life hereafter. That is what our Quran says. فَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرًا يَرَهُ وَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ شَرًّا يَرَهُ. So whatever we human beings do here in this worldly life, good, bad, small, big, all that is written somewhere by the angels of God or by God himself, and all that can be shown to us, will be definitely shown to us after we die. And he has he hints at that idea also. And next he says here, pane of glass. Maybe this pane of glass refers to to the childhood vision. All of us, when we are young, understand, this world looks very beautiful to us, a bed of roses to us. We all have a bunch of dreams. Ask any kid, what do you want to become after growing up? What do you want to become, say, in your life? He says, I want to become a doctor, a pilot, an engineer, a rich person, and all that. We all have beautiful dreams. But when we grow up, understand, most of us are not succeeding in fulfilling our dreams. And that what happens to our dreams, it melted and I let it fall and break our dreams. That you can say, the list of dreams, that vision of dream, that list of dreams is like the pane of glass in this poem. That pane of glass, it falls and we have no choice but to let it fall. That is what happens. Understand? So this poem is very, very, you can say, is full with wisdom and very philosophical poem. It doesn't discuss apples, it discusses dreams, duties, obligations in one's life, and doesn't talk about sleep. It talks about the death. And we all are not sure, like the narrator, we are not sure about our fate after death. Now, how we will be treated by God. And when he talks about woodchuck, woodchuck here represents nature, nature itself. Nature is here, nature is there. Nature itself will now tell us that what lies in store for us after death. So apple picking, you can take it literally or you can take it metaphorically, and you can pause video and you can read it on your own, and you can use your minds, understand, and you can try your level as best to interpret this poem according to your own understanding and mentality. Next, we have structure of the poem. Structure of the poem is very simple. It has 42 lines. It doesn't have any definite rhyme. It is written iambic pentameter, but the rhythm breaks at many places. For example, line 14, 16, and 32 have 2 or 3 syllables only, not 10 as required in pentameter. The word sleep, as I said already, is mentioned 5 or 6 times in the poem. It is in present tense. The poem is written in present tense. It is a stream of consciousness poem. The narrator here has recorded here his uncensored and unedited thoughts and feelings. The stream of thoughts jumps forward and backward, as I told you in the poem. Also, it is a philosophical poem composed in an easy diction. The devices used here are enjambment, hyperbole, synecdoche, and other devices also. Paraphrase. You can pause the video here and read this paraphrase. The narrator is describing his experience of picking apples. He says that he was plucking apples from a tree and is now feeling tired and sleepy. He has left a few apples on a branch of the tree unplucked. He needs to reach his bedroom fast lest he should fall asleep on the way. You can pause video here and read this paraphrase of the poem according to your own speed. Next, we have themes. Greed leads to suffering. First theme. That is why I said to you while explaining that poem. The narrator was greedy. The narrator had been greedy in his life. He had desired lots of crop, lots of apples, a big harvest of apples, and you know what happened to him finally. That huge harvest of apples tired him, understand, drained that energy out of him. And that is what happens in our life also, when we have lots of dreams and we don't realize that how fast our life ends, how fast our death approaches, understand, then death catches us sudden. So greed is bad. Like the narrator, he desired lots of apples, and then you know what result, he got tired. Now he wants to sleep. Next, futility of dreamers. Well, futility of dreamers, what does this futility of dreamers mean? We human beings, we all human beings, what happens to us, we dream a lot. Understand, dreaming is good, but too much of dreaming is bad. Understand, we have to live our life. But here, if you have a long list of dreams and you spend your all days and nights, all of your say time and energy chasing those dreams, understand, and you do not realize that you have to live also, you have to enjoy your life also. You don't have to only use your energy to chase dreams. For example, somebody's dream is to become a doctor, and he reads day night, morning evening. He has no time for friends, no time for family, no time for games and sports. That is what he says. And finally, if he does not succeed in fulfilling his dream, then his life, that it becomes a totally waste. He becomes a ruined person. But if he succeeds in fulfilling that dream, then other dreams come in his life. Then you say, I want to become a bigger doctor, I want to work in a bigger city, I want to have more and more pay. So that is what's a futility of dreams. Dreams are good, but too many dreamers and too much of dreaming is bad. Why? Because these dreamers, they do not let us enjoy our life. They do not let us, you can say, take a breath and look around, uh, and and give time to our kith and kin, to our near and dear ones. So in the poem also, the narrator, he has dreamed lots of apples, and then what happened to him? Finally, he regrets over having desire lots of apples. He is tired, he feels sleepy, and you know the tone in the poem, that the tone is very, very pessimistic, very regretful. He is very sad about the way he has led his life. Next is meaning of life. Meaning of life, yes, the poem, the poem actually, forces the readers, pushes the readers to think about the meaning of life. What is the meaning of life? Now, we all are born and we are given a bunch of dreams, and we have to fulfill those dreams. Some of us fulfill them, some of us don't fulfill them, and finally we die. Understand? Is this we people live for? Is this what we people live for? And you know, all people on the planet, whether they are rich or poor, whether they are Europeans and you can say Asians, we all human beings, we sometimes fall are healthy, sometimes we fall ill, sometimes we cry, sometimes we are happy, and finally we die. Understand? Our fate is very common. Understand? And whether you have more money, less money, it really doesn't change your fate. Understand? You take the example of Bill Gates, is the richest person in the world, but that richness, that wealth, does not stop him from becoming old, does not save him from death. Understand? And does not stop him from feeling sometimes sad and sorrowful. So that is what's a meaning of life. We all human beings, we have this absolute question, that what life is exactly. How we people can be peaceful in our life, or do we have to be peaceful in our life? What is the purpose of life? Understand? Is it just having a bunch of dreams, some duties and obligations, then using our all youth, childhood and adulthood and all our days and nights to chase those you can say dreams, to fulfill them? Is this life say about fulfilling dreams only? So this question, basic question, it actually irritates. This basic question, it disturbs all thinking human beings, and they do not have a good answer for it. Next, you have helplessness of man before the abundance of nature. Abundance of nature, well, we human beings, we are helpless. We are too little in the face of, in front of this too big nature. Again, take the example of, again, this a narrator. And this narrator, he cannot pluck down apples from one tree. Forget about other trees, other orchards and all that. We are too small. We want to conquer the nature, but we are too small for it. Life after death, as I said, this life after death, this narrator is worried about life after death, because some believers, they believe that they are good, they are righteous, they are very holy, and there is heaven for them after death. But some believe that they are very bad people, there is hell after there is hell waiting for them. But there is third category of human beings, they are skeptical. They say, no, is there really heaven, is there really hell? Understand? Will we come back like spring comes every year, like the sun comes back every morning? Understand? And this is skeptical question. Well, this is another absolute question that worries, that annoys thinking human beings. Life after death, is there heaven, is there hell? If there is heaven, will we go to heaven? If there is hell, we'll go to hell. I understand that is what a life after death is a disturbing question. Then we have theme. Write the theme of the poem after apple picking in your own words. Theme is here. I'm going to read it very fast. The poem reveals that human beings have not understood completely the real meaning and purpose of life. However, they do one or the other thing to keep themselves engaged till death approaches them. Though they are never ready to die, or they never succeed in fulfilling all their dreams and desires, yet they have to willy-nilly answer the call of death. Their desires and dreams exhausted them to such an extent that they wish to sleep forever in the comfortable arms of death. The narrator in the poem has also cherished lots of dreams, has fulfilled many of them, is feeling overtired, and is finally waiting for death to make him sleep eternally. But he is skeptical about his future. He is not sure whether the death will bring the much needed peace to his life or not. He doesn't want to be treated as at the hands of death like he was by life. He is disappointed at life and narrates his life experiences in a bitter tone in the poem. The apples are nothing but a metaphor referring to his dreams, desires, and obligations. Next, you have literary devices used in the poem. First, literary devices and jammet. It refers to the verse whose sentence doesn't complete at the end of the line but runs on to the following verse. For example, I was well upon my way to sleep. Next is metaphor. It means indirect comparison. Here, apples imply to dreams or tasks of the narrator. Sleep implies to death. Unfulfilled battle to unfulfilled dreams. Then you have synecdoche. When part is mentioned to represent whole, in the poem Woodchuck represents the whole nature. Hyperbole, it refers to a statement or exaggeration. There were 10,000 people to touch an example. Then you have epizeuxis, the repetition of a word or phrase to indicate emphasis, for example, thousand. Next we have glossary. Barrel means a container, a bough means a branch, essence of winter sleep means peel of winter sleep, drowsing means feeling sleepy, a pane of glass, a piece of ice, skimmed means to remove the upper layer of something, stem end means top end of apple, blossom end means bottom end of apple, fleck of russet, red scars on apples, ladder round, a round step up ladder, cellar bin, a warehouse or go down, rumbling sound, rolling sound, spiked means pricked or injured, cider apple heap means apple set aside for juice. Then you have textual questions. Try and guess what these objects symbolize. Apples, as I said already, apples symbolize dreams, desires. Barrel means some poetry book of poet or bank or fulfillment of dreams. Ladder, ways and means of fulfilling dreams. Swing means ups and downs in our life. Then if you look at the rhyme scheme of the poem, what is it like? Rhyme scheme, as I told you, there is no definite rhyme scheme in the poem, and the poet has done it intentionally to let his, he can say, thoughts flow continuously. Next you have, what does the pane of glass refer to? Pane of glass, as I said, it literally refers to a piece of ice, but it also refers to those dreams and desires that all of us have when we are young, understand, indicating that he could complete. Next we have, why has the word thousand been repeated twice? Thousand has been repeated twice for emphasis to show the abundance of nature. Understand, this poetic device is called epizeuxis. And then next question is, what does apple picking refer to? Apple picking, I was discussing what apple picking refer. Literally it means harvesting apples, but metaphorically it means fulfilling dreams or chasing your dreams or chasing your desires. And you can pause video here to read it all. End of the lecture. And I hope you people understood it. If you have any query or if you have any question, you can write that down in comment section, or you can email me. My email is sahilsharifdinenglish@gmail.com. God bless you all.